Pop the hood of a brand new car in 2026 and here's what you'll find. A sea of black plastic. No spark plugs in sight. No belts. No visible engine block. Just a smooth engine cover with a manufacturer's logo staring back at you, daring you to touch anything without a $500 diagnostic scanner plugged into the data port underneath the dash. Somewhere between the 1990s and today, the automobile stopped being a machine you could understand and became a sealed black box you're not invited to open. And that's a genuine tragedy, because for millions of grandfathers, fathers, and curious beginners, the engine bay used to be the single greatest classroom on Earth. Here's the thing nobody tells you. You don't need a 2026 pickup truck stuffed with 40 microprocessors to teach a 10-year-old how an engine actually works. You need something built back when engineers still assumed a human being with a socket set was going to be the one doing the fixing. The 1990s sit in this perfect sweet spot of automotive history. By the middle of the decade, fuel injection had mostly replaced the finicky carburetor, and federal regulators had pushed the entire industry toward standardized on-board diagnostics, so these engines start reliably, idle smoothly, and run clean. But the suffocating wave of plastic engine covers, drive-by-wire throttle bodies, and hybrid battery packs hadn't arrived yet. You pop the hood, and you can see the entire engine, every hose, every belt, every bolt, laid out almost like a diagram in a textbook. There's no need for a laptop, no proprietary dealer software, and no subscription just to reset a warning light. A basic socket set, a timing light, and a Saturday afternoon are genuinely enough. That's the whole thesis of this list. 10 machines, every single one rooted in the 1990s, chosen because they turn a simple Saturday afternoon into a masterclass in mechanical literacy. If you've got a grandkid glued to a screen, or you're a parent who wants your teenager to actually understand torque instead of just watching videos about it, stick around, because by the time we hit the number one pick, you're going to want to go find one of these sitting in a driveway near you. And hey, if this kind of no-nonsense car knowledge is your thing, smash that subscribe button right now, because we do this every single week. Let's start the countdown at number 10, and we're heading to Dearborn for the Ford Escort ZX2, built from 1998 through 2003. Now technically this one creeps just past the decade line in production, but it was designed and engineered squarely in 1990s spirit, replacing the aging Escort GT as Ford's affordable sport compact. Under the hood sits the 2.0-liter Z-Tech, a dual overhead cam four-cylinder built with a cast iron block and an aluminum head, engineered to rev happily and shrug off high mileage. What makes the ZX2 such a fantastic teaching tool is the sheer openness of that engine bay. There's real breathing room around the timing belt, the accessory belt, the distributorless ignition coils, and the spark plugs themselves, so a beginner isn't fighting for space with their elbows just to swap apart. It also gave American buyers a far more dependable alternative to the notoriously head gasket-prone Neon that Chrysler was selling at the exact same time, which only adds to its reputation today as the sturdy, honest choice for a first wrench. The plugs sit right on top of the head under simple coil packs, nothing is buried beneath an intake manifold, and the whole car uses a conventional cable-operated throttle rather than the drive-by-wire systems that make modern throttle body cleaning such a headache. Number 9 takes us to Spring Hill, Tennessee, home of the Saturn S-Series, produced from 1991 all the way through 2002. General Motors built an entire experiment around this car, famous for its dent and rust-resistant polymer body panels and its no-haggle sales approach that broke every rule of the traditional dealership. But the real story for us is under the hood, where you'll find either the 1.9-liter single overhead cam engine or its twin-cam sibling. Saturn's engineers left enormous amounts of open space in that bay. Components sit high and accessible, and because the company built its entire brand identity around simplicity and trust, they made sure a home mechanic could realistically service the car without a lift or a specialist tool. Changing the oil, swapping spark plugs, replacing sensors, and pulling belts are all approachable jobs. And even now in 2026 there remains a surprisingly loyal community of Saturn owners keeping these cars alive and swapping advice online. Whether you find one wearing the SL Sedan badge, the SC Coupe badge, or the SW Wagon badge, the mechanicals underneath stay virtually identical, so parts and knowledge carry across the entire lineup no matter which body style lands in your driveway. At number 8, we turn to Mazda's lineup with the Protégé, built from 1995 through 1998. This one flies completely under the radar compared to its Honda and Toyota rivals, but that's exactly what keeps prices low and availability high for a teaching car. Power comes from either the 1.5-liter B5 or the 1.8-liter BP four-cylinder, both organized cleanly under the hood in logical, uncluttered layouts. The Protégé shares its engineering roots with Mazda's Familia platform sold around the world, meaning the fundamentals underneath are proven and thoroughly documented. For a grandfather looking to teach preventive maintenance, oil changes, filter swaps, belt tension checks, without wandering into electronic complications, the Protégé is a quietly excellent, often overlooked choice. And because it never gets the spotlight that the Civic or Corolla soak up, running examples tend to sit at a noticeably friendlier price point for anyone building a first project car on a real budget. Number 7 brings us to one of the strangest and most fascinating partnerships in automotive history, the Geo Prism, built from 1993 through 1997. This car exists because of NUMMI, the new United Motor Manufacturing joint venture between General Motors and Toyota, built inside a converted factory in Fremont, California. In practical terms, the Prism is a Toyota Corolla wearing a Chevrolet badge, sharing the same 1.6-liter 4AFE and 1.8-liter 7AFE engines. That means your grandkid gets genuine Toyota engineering and reliability, often for a noticeably lower price than the badge park next door, simply because fewer buyers know what they're actually looking at. Parts interchange directly with Corolla components, so the support network is every bit as massive. The whole point of that Fremont factory partnership was for General Motors to study Toyota's legendary production methods firsthand, which means the quality control baked into every Prism is genuinely Toyota grade, right down to the last bolt. Number 6 is that very Corolla we just mentioned, the E100 generation, built from 1993 through 1997. If there's one nameplate on this entire list synonymous with the word reliable, it's this one. The same 4AFE and 7AFE engines found in the Prism live here, wrapped in one of the most bulletproof reputations in automotive history. What makes the Corolla such a phenomenal training platform is the sheer volume of documentation available, forums, videos, printed manuals, and parts counters in nearly every country on Earth stock components for this car. Routine service, oil changes, spark plugs, filters, belts, can all be handled with a basic socket set and absolutely zero special tools, making it one of the single best cars in the world to hand a beginner a wrench and simply say, go ahead. It's genuinely common to find these Corollas still running well past 200,000 miles on nothing but consistent basic maintenance, which is exactly the lesson you want a beginner to walk away with. That simple, regular care beats expensive, occasional repair every single time. At number 5, we're climbing into the bed of the Chevrolet S10, focusing on its 1990s production run, and specifically the 2.2-liter overhead valve LN2 engine, commonly just called the 2200. This is about as mechanically honest as an engine gets, a simple 2-valve per-cylinder pushrod design with none of the complexity that dual overhead cam engines introduce. The tall, boxy engine bay of the S10 gives a young mechanic room to move, room to actually see how a water pump connects to the cooling system, how an alternator charges the battery, and how a single serpentine belt drives every accessory at once. Chevrolet sold an enormous number of these trucks throughout the decade, which means junkyards and parts counters across the country are still stocked with cheap, available components even today. The generous ground clearance underneath makes undercarriage work, oil filter changes, and exhaust inspection dramatically easier for a beginner than sliding under a low-riding modern sedan on a cold garage floor. Number 4 sends us to Nissan's hardbody, officially the D21, produced from part way through 1986 all the way to 1997, though we're focused on the 1990 through 1997 trucks that best fit our 90s theme. Nissan built a legendary reputation for these trucks with a memorable advertising campaign showing a raging bull unable to put a single dent in the bed, and owners will tell you the reputation was earned. Under the hood, the 2.4-liter KA24E is about as beginner-friendly as engines come, a single overhead cam design driven by a timing chain rather than a rubber belt, meaning no scheduled belt replacement panic and excellent long-term durability. Buyers wanting more power could step up to the 3.0-liter VG30E V6. Either way, the hard body hands a new mechanic a simple, honest, chain-driven engine with minimal electronic interference, a perfectly low-pressure environment to learn. Four-wheel drive models even add a manual locking hub and a simple mechanical transfer case lever, giving an older grandkid a hands-on introduction to how a drivetrain actually splits power between axles. Number 3 takes us to the compact truck wars of the 1990s with the Ford Ranger Splash, built from 1993 through 1997. The Splash trim brought a lowered stance, color-matched fiberglass flares, and genuinely striking looks to what was otherwise a hard-working economy truck, but underneath that style sits one of the simplest mechanical layouts of any American compact pickup from the entire decade. Buyers could option the Splash with the 2.3-liter Lima 4-cylinder, the 3.0-liter Vulcan V6, or the 4.0-liter Cologne overhead valve V6, and every single one of them drops into a spacious, uncluttered engine bay. That extra room around the block makes tasks like replacing a water pump, an alternator, or a serpentine belt dramatically easier than in a cramped modern engine bay, which is exactly why this truck remains such a beloved favorite for hands-on teaching. Ford actually co-engineered this platform with Mazda, who sold a nearly identical truck of their own overseas, which means the engineering behind the Splash was proven across 2 entire continents before it ever reached an American teaching garage. Now we arrive at number 2, and this is where things get serious, because we're talking about the Jeep Wrangler TJ, built from 1997 through 2006. Few vehicles on the planet teach mechanical fundamentals better than a Wrangler riding on solid axles front and rear. The TJ generation introduced coil spring suspension in place of the old leaf springs used on the earlier YJ, giving it a noticeably smoother ride without sacrificing a single ounce of the simplicity underneath. Power comes from the legendary 4.0-liter AMC inline-6, a chain-driven, cast-iron engine displacing 242 cubic inches of famously bulletproof American engineering, a motor so tough it developed a reputation among off-roaders for surviving abuse that would destroy lesser engines outright. Because that 6 sits longitudinally down the middle of the frame rather than sideways like most modern front-wheel drive cars, there's excellent access running down both sides of the block. Add in a straightforward manual transmission, simple solid front and rear axles, and basic leaf and coil suspension components, and you've got a rolling classroom that teaches not just engine maintenance, but genuine suspension, steering, and differential work too. Jeep even brought back the TJ's round headlights as a deliberate nod to the original 1940s CJ, tying this teaching platform straight back to the very origins of the entire off-road genre. Which brings us, finally, to the number one pick, the car so many professional mechanics point to as the single greatest teaching platform in automotive history, the 6th generation Honda Civic, chassis code EK, built from 1996 through 2000. Ask any backyard mechanic where they truly learned their skills, and there's a very good chance the answer involves this exact car. Depending on trim, you'd find the 1.6-liter D16Y7 single overhead cam engine, the 1.6-liter D16Y8, which added Honda's VTEC variable valve timing system and bumped output to around 127 horsepower, or, in the range-topping C trim, the incredible 1.6-liter B16A2 dual overhead cam VTEC engine, screaming toward redline and producing a genuinely remarkable 160 horsepower from just 1,600 cubic centimeters of naturally aspirated displacement. But raw horsepower isn't why the EK Civic tops this list. It's the sheer organization of that engine bay. Every single component sits exactly where logic says it should: the alternator, the distributor, the intake, the battery, all within easy reach, all removable with nothing more than a basic set of metric sockets and wrenches. Honda's D-Series engines even use a manually adjustable valve lash system, meaning your grandkid can learn to set valve clearances by hand with a feeler gauge, a genuine old-school mechanical skill that teaches patience and precision in equal measure. Add in a timing belt instead of a chain, which forces regular hands on maintenance rather than letting a component quietly last for 200,000 miles unnoticed, and you've got an engine that essentially demands to be learned. Toss in the largest aftermarket parts network and online community of literally any car on this entire list, decades of forums, videos, and cheap replacement parts, and even a clutch job, something many beginners consider intimidating, becomes a genuinely approachable weekend project in this particular engine bay. It's no exaggeration to say an entire generation of professional mechanics and tuners cut their teeth turning wrenches on exactly this car, its cultural footprint stretching all the way from grassroots autocross lots into mainstream Hollywood car culture by the early 2000s. And in 2026, clean examples are still out there, still shockingly affordable, and still waiting to teach somebody their very first lesson in how an engine actually works. So there you have it, 10 1990s machines built back when engineers still trusted regular people to open the hood and get their hands dirty. From the honest pushrod simplicity of the Chevrolet S10, to the chain-driven toughness of the Nissan hardbody, all the way up to that legendary Honda Civic engine bay at number 1, every single car on this list teaches something a modern vehicle with its plastic covers and locked-out computers simply can't. None of them need a laptop. None of them need a subscription. They just need a curious kid, a patient teacher, and a basic set of tools passed down from one generation to the next. So here's the question for the comment section. Which one of these 10 did you learn to wrench on, or which one are you hunting down right now to teach the next generation? Drop it below, hit subscribe if you haven't already, and we'll see you in the next one.